The shocking aftermath of an ignored 911 call will leave you speechless. When help didn't come, one child's bravery exposed systemic injustice and sparked a movement for change. Witness the full story. Subscribe and join the conversation. Share where you're watching from in the comments below. The sky was already dimming as Liam walked home from school. His small frame seemed even smaller under the weight of his overstuffed backpack and the growing shadows cast by the rundown buildings in his neighborhood. In his left hand, he clutched a plastic bag containing a few apples and a loaf of bread, items he had carefully chosen on the way back. Today had been tough, but then again, most days were in his part of the city. The background noise of distant traffic, intermittent sirens, and muffled street corner conversations was so familiar to Liam that he barely noticed it anymore. He reached the rusty, graffiti-covered door of his apartment building and let out a small sigh. This was home, a crumbling, three-story complex with decaying brick walls and a security gate that never locked properly. The elevator hadn't worked in years, and the stairway always carried the faint odor of mildew. But it was home. Inside waited the one person who made it bearable. His mom. As Liam climbed the stairs to their second-floor apartment, his thoughts wandered to her. She'd been unwell for several days, more exhausted than usual. She was carrying his baby sibling, and despite her efforts to hide her discomfort, Liam noticed every quiet groan and every tired rub of her swollen belly. He was excited about having a sibling, but the sight of his mom struggling weighed on him. He hated seeing her like this. When he reached their apartment door, his stomach tightened. The door was ajar. That wasn't right. His mom always locked it, especially in their neighborhood. Pushing the door open slowly, Liam stepped inside, his heart pounding in his chest. The sight that met him froze him in place. His mom lay motionless on the kitchen floor. "Mom," he called out, his voice trembling. She didn't respond. The plastic bag slipped from his hand, and the apples rolled across the floor. But Liam didn't care. His breath hitched, and his legs felt like jelly as he stumbled toward her. Her face was pale, her eyes closed, and her breathing shallow. "Mom," he shouted, louder this time, as if raising his voice could wake her. Panic surged through him when there was still no response. He knelt beside her, reaching for her hand. It was cold to the touch. The smell of something burning hit his nose. He looked up and saw a pot of soup boiling over on the stove. Steam rose from the burner, and the liquid hissed as it spilled. Liam scrambled to his feet, turning off the stove with trembling hands. The last thing they needed was a fire. He turned back to his mom, still unconscious on the floor. His mind raced. He needed to call for help. Frantically, Liam searched for her cell phone. It wasn't on the counter where she usually kept it. Tossing aside dish towels and papers, he remembered she'd left it charging in the bedroom. He sprinted to retrieve it, then quickly dialed 911. The line rang, each tone stretching unbearably. 911. "What's your emergency?" A calm, detached voice finally answered. "It's my mom. She's unconscious. She's pregnant, and I don't know what to do. Please, I need help." Liam's words tumbled out in a panicked rush. "What's your location?" "Sweetie?" the operator asked. "We're at 2312 Birchwood Avenue, apartment 204. Liam said, his voice shaking. "Please, hurry." There was a pause. Then the operator's tone shifted, becoming colder. "That's in the east side, right?" "Yes. Please. We need help." The operator sighed audibly. "Honey, I'll be honest with you. Calls from that area usually take a while. Our units are spread thin, and we prioritize the most urgent cases." Liam's chest tightened. "But this is urgent. She's not breathing right, and she's pregnant." "Places like that," the operator continued, "people need to learn to handle things themselves. We'll get someone there when we can. Just hold on." The line went dead. Liam stared at the phone in disbelief. How could she hang up? How could they leave his mom like this? Tears stung his eyes, but he forced them back. He didn't have time to cry. He ran back to his mom, gently placing his hand on her forehead. It was clammy. He remembered a lesson from school about first aid and recovery positions. His teacher had told them how to help someone who had fainted. Shakily, he shifted his mom to her side. tilting her head slightly back to keep her airway open. Then, he bolted out of the apartment, knocking on neighbors' doors. "Please, my mom's unconscious. They won't send help," he cried. After several unanswered knocks, a door opened. It was Miss Rosa, a kind older woman who always greeted Liam with a smile. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "It's my mom. She needs help, but they won't come. Can you call them?" Miss Rosa ushered him inside and dialed 911 from her landline. Liam listened as she calmly explained the situation, but her face grew grim as the operator gave her the same dismissive response. "They said it'll be a while," she told Liam, shaking her head. "Stay with her, baby. I'll try to find more help." Liam nodded and ran back to his mom. Minutes felt like hours as he sat by her side, holding her hand. Neighbors began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Mr. Brown, a retired firefighter, arrived and attempted another call to 911, only to receive the same response. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. "We're not going to sit here and do nothing. Let's get her to the hospital ourselves." The group quickly devised a plan. With no car available, they decided to carry Liam's mom on a makeshift stretcher. Meanwhile, Miss Rosa suggested documenting everything on video to expose the negligence they were facing. The neighbors rallied together, recording their efforts and sharing the footage online. The video quickly went viral, sparking outrage. People demanded answers, flooding emergency services with calls and tagging local officials. Finally, an ambulance arrived, followed by police officers. The paramedics worked swiftly to stabilize Liam's mom, but the officers' questioning and judgmental glances revealed their bias. "We're just doing our job," one officer said dismissively when confronted by the neighbors. Liam stood tall, his voice firm despite his fear. "My mom isn't a criminal. She's sick, and she needs help. That's all there is to it." The paramedics transported Liam's mom to the hospital, where she began to recover. Meanwhile, the viral video had sparked protests and investigations. The 911 operator and responding officers faced accountability, and systemic changes were implemented to ensure no one else would be ignored. Weeks later, as Liam and his mom sat in the park, enjoying a rare moment of peace, she turned to him with a proud smile. "You're my hero," she said. Liam grinned, knowing their fight had made a difference, not just for them, but for their entire community. Together, they had shown the world the power of courage and unity, and for the first time in a long while, hope felt within reach. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe and join the conversation below. Let us know where you're watching from and share your thoughts. Together, we can bring more stories like this to life.